It's time to take it back to the basics. Communication 101. How do you sitting at home watching this video, how do you become more articulate? How do you speak more effectively? How do you speak and appear like you're smarter? Well, I'm glad you clicked on this video because this is Communication 101 and we are going to be going over the basics. The basics is something that not a lot of people know, and if they do know, they don't pay attention to it. And if they do pay attention to it, they don't practice it consistently, which is why people like me and people like you are the anomalies. You recognize communication is the difference between failure and success. You will either rise or fall to your level of communication, especially in today's world of social media, of personal branding, of AI. If you don't know how to communicate your value, number one. Number two, if you don't know how to speak and communicate so people are drawn to you, I don't know what to tell you. But that's not you because you are on this video and we are going to go over how to become, number one, let me get rid of this. We are going to go over how to become, is my mic on? It is on, it is on. We are going to become, number one, articulate. This is actually one of my favorite words in the dictionary, but I don't know how to spell it. Wrong one. Articulate. I love this word. And also come across more smarter. Who wouldn't want this? And the thing is, you don't have to read more books. You don't have to. That would help. Just simply how you speak will do it. So we are going to go over the basic aspects of communication. To make it easier to understand and to comprehend, I'm going to split communication into two separate parts. We've got verbal and we've got non-verbal. So let me write verbal here. And before I start, let me ask you a question. If you had to guess, so communication is made up of verbal and non-verbal. If you had to guess, how much of communication is verbal as a percentage? How much of communication is non-verbal as a percentage? So the makeup, is it 50-50? Is it 60-40? Is it 199? Comment below what you think it is before I give you the answer. Verbal body language, verbal is all to do with, number one, your voice. And I'm going to give you the answer to the percentage question in a moment. Number two, we've got language, very important. Number three, we've got the words you use. And just to make sure I'm not forgetting anything else. And this is an interesting one actually. So I put listening here, but listening is kind of in the middle. It's not really verbal because obviously you're not speaking, you're listening, but it's not body language because, you know what, I've just had an epiphany. It kind of is more body language. So you know what, we'll save that on for later. Listening we'll come back to, that's more body language. But for now we've got voice, language and words. Pretty much the basis of verbal communication. Your voice. In order to come across more articulate, come across more smart, we need your voice to be, number one, controlled, but not robotic, which is why we also need it to be emotive. Notice how these two are kind of opposites, but that is what the best communicators do. They make you wonder how. How are they able to speak so controlled, with such competence and poise, yet they're not robotic. They bring in emotion, they have tone. This is another thing, tonality. So I'll keep it at three things for now, but your voice. Anytime you speak, in an interview, in a networking event, on camera, if you try to control your voice a bit more, this involves not saying filler words. Filler words are habitual, they're reflexes, and that's not in being in control. Controlled words, control your words. We have emotion and emotive language. Bring in tone, bring in emotion, and then we have tonality. Emotion and tone, pretty much the same thing. So try to be controlled while bringing in tonality and emotion. Number 2, we have language. Depending on what language you speak, we have English. Of course, how many people in the world actually speak English? I always forget, is Spanish, Mandarin, or English the world's most popular language? Please let me know in the comments. Whatever language you speak, that will of course enable you to speak to other people with that language. However, I'm going to give you the answer to that question now. The percentage question. 70% of communication is non-verbal. Meaning only 30% of communication, meaning only 30% of communication is verbal. How crazy is that? Meaning you watching this video right now, you're paying attention to only 30% what I'm actually saying. Now, of course, in certain contexts, it changes. Video, for example, that goes up a tiny bit more. With that being said, you're still able to communicate with people who speak a different language to you. A story comes to mind. There was one time I was in the park and there was an old Chinese couple, they were walking. And they didn't speak a lot of English, I think, because I went up to speak to them and we couldn't really understand each other. However, I went up to speak to them just to say hello. It was in the morning. And the old man saw that before I was doing push-ups. And then I came up to him. And then he started to mimic push-ups. And then he was like, oh, you. And he started doing that. No words spoken. I couldn't understand him. He just pointed at me and started doing the push-up gesture. Again, we don't have to understand or speak the same language as somebody to be able to communicate with them. So before we move on to body language, which is arguably even more important than what you say, we're going to talk about words. This is a double-edged sword because to come across as more articulate and smart, yes, you can use longer words. Words that you will only find in the dictionary. Words that you won't find in normal conversation, of course. But that actually alienates yourself. If you're speaking with people who don't normally use big words in conversation, it's going to be hard for them to understand you. Now, this again is a double-edged sword because you can use that to your advantage. If you are speaking with people who are more articulate, then of course you can use smarter, longer words. If you also want to appear like you're like an authority figure when you're amongst people who are in a lesser position than you, then okay, you can use smarter words. But just be careful of that. You don't want to confuse people when that's not your plan. So using more longer, specific words that you only find in the dictionary, that will help you come across as more smarter and articulate, just naturally. Amazing. And just a quick one on that. Stereotypes work a lot. As a child watching the cartoons, what was it? It was always the guy with the glasses, speaking the scientist, speaking the long, elaborate words. So now we associate longer words with smarter people. Amazing. So just keep that in mind. 30% of our communication is non-verbal. If you watched my last video, you would know that because I talked about a study. And this is an eye-opening study of people who were interviewed, and the results might shock you. If you want to see that, then watch the last video. So now we move on to non-verbal. Non-verbal. And this is where 70% of how people judge you comes from. When you first look at someone, it doesn't matter what they say because you can't hear them. You've looked at them. You are judging these things that I'm going to tell you now. You are judging their body language. You are judging their facial expressions. When you get into the conversation with them, you are now judging their hand gestures. And one that people forget. They forget this so much. But your appearance, or should I say they remember it, but for different reasons. For attracting the opposite sex or attracting whoever you want to attract. More so for relationship, intimacy reasons. But your appearance is also how you communicate in a job, in relationships, etc., in friendships, in cultures, etc. Appearance is huge. Communication is more so these things, which is why you want to focus and make sure that your body language is good. Your facial expressions are on point. Your hand gestures, you're using hand gestures, and your appearance matches the appearance you want to give off. Body language. We want your body language to appear more articulate and smart. We want your body language to be upright, chest out. We want your facial expressions to be calmer. If you want to appear more smart and competent, you don't want too many facial expressions. You want to appear controlled and cool. If you want to appear warmer and you're in the conversation, use more facial expressions. Hand gestures. You want your hand gestures to be, again, controlled. Quick tip. Hand gestures, the more somebody shows you their palms, the more warmer they are, which is why when we meet someone for the first time, we wave. If you want to appear like a leader, more in control, more competent, more articulate, you want to keep your hands palmed down. You'll see a lot of leaders, when they're in a business meeting, they put their hands on the table like this. The back of their palm is facing the other person. They're not like this. This is like I'm giving you something. This is like I'm telling you something. They use a lot of backhand gestures. Appearance. You can name appearances. Suits, ties, glasses, etc. Smartwear, appearance. This is if you want to appear more smart and articulate. Body language, facial expressions, hand gestures, and appearance. And I want to give you some things that will improve both your non-verbal and your verbal communication. So, to speak more articulate, I recommend you reading and recording. For reading, when you read, try to over-pronounce every word that you read. Really exaggerate your facial expressions, exaggerate your mouth more so. Exaggerate your tongue. Pronounce every T as a T. Pronounce every E as a E. Then, you want to also record yourself. Record yourself speaking. Slow. Pronounce every word. It's more so, these are the exercises, but the mindset behind these exercises is over-pronouncing. To become more articulate, you really want to over-pronounce. Pronounce. Over-pronounce your vowels, your consonants, the t, the ts, the k, over-pronounce them. This is for verbal. For non-verbal, you again want to record yourself. This is to see how you are base, how you are default. Do you use a lot of hand gestures? Do you use a lot of facial expressions? Are your hands by your side, etc.? Then, to get inspiration, I want you to try and find somebody who you like to watch. Whether that's a YouTuber, whether that's a public figure, whether that's a politician, etc. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Ronald Reagan, JFK, anyone. Analyze their body language, their hand gestures. Analyze how they speak. Because politicians, presidents, they are trained in communication. They are trained to come across a certain way. Hand gestures, body language, non-verbal communication is 70% of that. And that is the difference between them getting elected into the House of Presidency of the United States and them being just another person who tried to run. If you're from the UK, you're going to understand what I'm about to say. This is to come across as, when you're explaining your points, come across as articulate. To not ramble when you're explaining points. I'm going to take you back to secondary school. All my people know what this means. We've got points, we've got evidence, we've got to explain. Frameworks are so valuable and vital. If you struggle with not knowing what to say when you're explaining something, or you worry about rambling, frameworks, just keep a framework in your mind. This is one of the simplest ones. Of course, there are longer, more acronyms, more letters, etc. But this is one of the simplest ones you can remember. Make your point, provide some evidence, then explain why you have that point. I believe communication will get you promoted. It's evidence that 90% of communicators, I believe communication will get you promoted. That's my point. Evidence. People who can communicate well, they get promoted in 18 months. Bad communicators, they get promoted every 4 years. Explain. You can see here the difference in bad communicators and good communicators, which is why communication is so important. So this was Communication 101, to become more articulate and speak smarter. If you are somebody who struggles with getting their points across, if you recognize that, yes, communication is a key element of your career, of your relationships, of your life, and you would like to improve it, then click the link in the description to reach out to me, and me or my team will reach out to you.